My name is Caroline. I'm 18 years old, and I'm the lead youth ambassador for the National Advocacy Program for Narcolepsy Network. I was diagnosed with type 1 narcolepsy, which is narcolepsy with cataplexy, when I was 14 years old, and I am here today to talk about dealing with narcolepsy in high school. So we will be discussing how to pursue getting accommodations, how to succeed in the classroom in a non-accommodation lens, and balancing homework and extracurriculars while also thriving with narcolepsy. So me personally, I was diagnosed as a freshman. So my freshman year, before I had any accommodations, I really struggled with staying awake in class. I would zone out and fall asleep all the time. So there was just so much content that I missed. So I feel like it was very important for me as a student to get accommodations that made it easier for me to make up the stuff that I missed. By the time I was a sophomore, I did go through the accommodations process, and thankfully my school was very cooperative, but unfortunately that isn't always the case. So I will provide some advice for how to deal with the less cooperative school environments. But my accommodations were to have additional time for homework when I was absent. My problem is that I felt so fatigued some days that I just could not go to school. So whenever I missed class, I had 3 extra days to complete assignments that I missed, which was a lifesaver because I would be absent for like a day every few weeks. And if you don't have extra time to make up that content, it can really add up. So there are a bunch of options that you can do, but my personal favorite accommodation was having additional time for makeup work. Okay. So if you're dealing with having narcolepsy in a non-accommodation setting, you should always tell your teacher that you have narcolepsy. And it doesn't have to be in person if that makes you uncomfortable. When I was a freshman and I was just diagnosed, that was at the end of the first semester. So I sent an email to all of my teachers describing what narcolepsy is and how it affected my life and my ability to be a successful student. So if you aren't necessarily comfortable talking about your medical issues face-to-face, you can always try to do a more written down private route. So just make sure that your teachers understand that this is a serious condition and it's not that you're just not paying attention and you can't be bothered to stay awake. You're trying your best and this is how they can help you to be the best you can be. Another thing you can do is try to keep track of how the classroom is set up that you can thrive. So for example, I get really tired if it's hot. So if I know that my English teacher always has a really hot classroom, I'll dress in layers so I can take off my sweater and wear a t-shirt underneath. And I know that if I sit by the teacher's desk, I'm less likely to fall asleep. And if I am, the teacher can just tap me on the shoulder instead of calling me out from across the room. So it's more private and more quiet. So you can do lots of different things like that. I know someone who's sitting by a window keeps him awake because he has the things outside the window to keep him from going into a sleep attack. And I know that that's limited depending on who you are. But I think that it is really important to make the classroom work in your favor if you can. So another thing you can do if you aren't getting accommodations or just as a contingency, if you don't think you need accommodations, is if you feel like you're having a really bad day, your brain fog is terrible, you're having tons of sleep attacks and micro sleeps, you can take pictures of your friend's notes, or you can try to record a lecture. I had this one teacher who would give lectures a lot, and I was like, I just know I can't stay awake through this. So I would turn on my phone and start recording it. So there are things that you can do that definitely are very simple fixes that can help you keep up with content that you missed because you were asleep and you couldn't help it. So with that in mind, we can segue into how to get accommodations like 504s and IEPs. So the first thing you should do is you should talk to your principal, your whoever the dean of students in terms of accommodations are, your guidance counselor, and your school nurse, and see what accommodations that the school provides and then see which ones will help you best. So before you have your official 504 or IEP or accommodation meeting, you want to talk with your family about what accommodations you need and why you think they'll help you before you actually go to the school. When you're in your meeting, do not be afraid to fight for yourself. If a school doesn't want to give you an accommodation, that doesn't mean you don't deserve it. The ADA requires that institutions provide accommodation if it does not place a quote undue burden on the institution. So you having extra time for homework is not an undue burden. It is very important to know that your accommodations are to make you successful. It's not that you're weak and you can't like make it on your own. It's that you have a medical condition and this is how you can be the best you can be. These are some accommodations that friends of mine who have narcolepsy have gotten, and some accommodations I myself have gotten. You can have extra time on tests. You can have extra time for homework. You can have extra time to complete assignments that you are absent for. You can have a note taker. You can have a permanent pass to go to the nurse if you need to take a nap. I also had that one. That one was very nice. If I ever felt like I was just too tired to pay attention, I could go to the nurse, take a 20-minute power nap, and then I would be back in class and ready to go. You can also have something called a nap block, and that is where instead of having a scheduled class in a period, you can take a nap for that time instead and make up for the credits some other way by taking either a summer class or an online class. Again, all these are accommodations that I know people have had, but that doesn't necessarily mean your school district will want to provide them. So it is striking a balance between what you need and what the school is willing to provide. But again, do not be afraid to advocate for yourself and what you know you need. So next is dealing with homework. And if you're anything like me, you have tons of homework. So what I would always do is keep very diligent track of all of my assignments to make sure that I knew everything. Because if I stopped writing stuff down, like in my planner on like my homework card, which is basically just like a note card I had where I wrote down all of my stuff would fall through the cracks because like you'll get brain fog or you'll fall asleep and you're like, did I do that assignment? So being very careful to keep track of everything you have is important. It's also important to make sure you know how much time and energy each of the assignments will take. So like if you know that writing an essay for you isn't as hard as like a math homework assignment, you should try to invest your energy into the more difficult one first, because you never know when you're going to have a sleep attack or when you're just going to hit like your mental wall for the day and you can't keep doing assignments. So a lot of that is just knowing yourself and how your body feels during the day. So for example, I get really bad mental fatigue at like 4 in the afternoon. So I'll do a lot of my homework during my study hall or my lunch block during the school day, because like my mental prime is between like the morning and like 1 in the afternoon. And then after that, my capacity goes way down because I'm just very tired. So I try to complete stuff as early as I can in the day or as early before being due as possible, just so I can make sure that I have enough time to get my quality work in. So there are a bunch of ways that you can deal with that. And if you know that you don't have the capacity to do all of your assignments, you can ask for accommodations. You can also ask for your teachers to give you certain assignments early or to give certain extensions for assignments because you know you're having a hard time. Like if you're having a week where you're just like, I have so much brain fog, you can try to get an extension or you can try to get your assignments early. And I think all of those are really helpful. And again, don't be afraid to ask for all of these things because it is completely necessary for you to succeed, and you need to fight for yourself and you need to not be afraid of sounding pushy. It's your medical condition and it's your life. So stand up for yourself. So another thing is extracurriculars. So I'm a rower and I row year round, but I also do a bunch of school clubs. I do this thing called Scholastic Bowl, which is basically like Jeopardy, but with teams. And I do Model United Nations, and I'm in Math Honor Society and Chemistry Honor Society. So I do have a lot of extracurriculars that I have to balance in tandem with my tons of homework and all of that workload. So I tell all of my coaches and my like club advisors that I have narcolepsy. So like if you have a mandatory Chem Honor Society meeting and it's like, I'm just too tired, you can tell your advisor and then you can try to like meet with them another time to make up what you missed, or you can just have some more wiggle room because they know it's not you not caring about the group, it's that you have other things that are preventing you from being fully present sometimes. So I've told my rowing coach that I have narcolepsy and I explained to him like how it affects me. So if there's ever a day where I'm too tired to row, or if I'm in the boat and I'm looking really tired and there's something wrong with me, I'll just tell my coach, like, can you please switch me out for someone else? So there's nothing wrong with admitting that you need help. It isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of self-awareness, that you know what you can and can't do, and that you are striving to complete the most that you can and be a successful and well-rounded person. So never be ashamed or embarrassed to say that, Coach, I need to take a break. And depending on when and where your practices are and when your school day ends, you can absolutely take a nap before. I know a friend who played soccer, and she would take a nap in her car before practice, and it would give her enough of an energy boost to make it through. And I know that lots of people with narcolepsy take stimulants. So if you find yourself good through the school day, but then you're starting to have your energy peter out by the end, you can alter your dosage schedules to have it last longer through the day. Like me personally, I take a stimulant in the morning and I take a smaller stimulant in the afternoon, and that smaller stimulant helps me stay sharp for clubs and sports and other classes that may run late. So that is something you should absolutely discuss with a medical professional if you think that could help you. But again, everyone is different. Some people don't take stimulants. This is just something that has worked for me, but everyone's narcolepsy is different. So again, I feel like it's very important when you're navigating high school to know that your problems are valid and that you aren't taking advantage of the system by asking for help. And it isn't a sign that you can't do it on your own. It is a sign of introspection and self-awareness that you know your limitations and that you're fighting to do the best you can and the most you can. So I would just like to remind everyone that you've got this, and even though school may seem tough and may not seem fun, and you may be just too tired to do the thing that you thought you wanted to do, but you'll be okay, and we're all in this together. So up next, we have our very own Brandon, who will be discussing navigating online classes and this whole quarantine thing. So thank you so much.
I'm Brandon Beck, Youth Ambassador and Conference and Events Coordinator for the Narcolepsy Network Youth Ambassadorship Program. I was diagnosed with narcolepsy when I was 12, but I've had a panoply of symptoms many years before. Little did I know that my daydreams were actually microsleep episodes. As I struggled to stay alert on the baseball field or in school, I had no idea that it wasn't normal to constantly fight the exhaustion and pain. And now we're struggling with making sense of this new normal of sheltering in place, social distancing, and online courses due to COVID-19. Is anyone familiar with Ray Boom Boom Mancini? He was a champion boxer in the 1980s. Once broke his right hand before a fight, so he trained only with his left hand until the other healed. Soon, his left hand turned into a devastating weapon. The unintended consequence of breaking his dominant hand was that he became a better fighter. Despite initially feeling as if my wings had been clipped by this pandemic, I have been surprised by several unintended consequences from sheltering in place that have improved my life. Since last March, I've avoided going stir crazy, or should I say zip crazy, by using some simple strategies to stay motivated and connected with online learning, school activities, friends, and family. Today, I'd like to share 5 of these strategies that revolve around setting goals, showing up, streamlining routines, speaking up, and staying healthy. First, it's important to set a series of goals that lead to the bigger goals in your life. Your personal mission, your why, as in, why are you doing what you're doing? As Yogi Berra once said, it is a lot easier to go somewhere if you first know where you're going. One of my goals is to go to college and grad school so that I can reach my bigger goals of helping lots of people in meaningful ways. Therefore, I plan my week toward reaching those goals. Another goal is making the most out of virtual learning. Although there are inherent limitations with virtual learning, I learned that being proactive is the key. You never know what can be done unless you ask. I don't feel as alone as I did before because now everyone has special needs. and we need to work together to overcome the daily challenges. Therefore, it's okay to reach out for help, try new things, and give yourself permission to make mistakes. The most important thing is to just keep getting up and moving forward, because no one is expected to do this alone. Second, we need to make it to class, which for me is not always easy under the best of circumstances. There's a famous quote that suggests 90% of success is just showing up. I take this to mean anything is possible academically if I can just go to school each day. The good news is that showing up for class requires less effort with online learning. All we have to do is send an alarm, or 2 or 3, and turn on the computer, because it no longer matters if we attend classes unshowered, unfed, or in pajamas. Better yet, some if not all of our classes are recorded, or we can make arrangements to record them per our Ieps and 504s. If we are too tired to concentrate during class, we can replay the lessons later, which is amazing, because waking up, rolling out of bed, and making it to class has never been easier. My third strategy is related to organization and routines, which do not always happily coexist with brain fog and feeling as if you've been up for 48 hours straight. I don't know about you, but my executive functioning skills are already stressed to the max by my health issues, and the profound impact of COVID on our everyday lives just exacerbates these problems. I try to make online learning more effective by planning for each day to eliminate the unnecessary stressful activities that get in the way of my learning. For me, the trick is to plan for the next day during the previous evening so everything will go smoothly. Yes, my room is sometimes a mess, but I still have my wallet, glasses, and keys in the same place before I go to sleep each night. My books are always placed in the same spot on a bookshelf so they won't get lost. Every class has a separate color-coded folder, so all assignments are never misplaced. Every night, the clothes I want to wear the next day are placed on a chair. I now schedule all projects on my iPhone, similar to what my brother does in college, so they won't get lost. And I know this routine might sound insane, but eliminating everything possible that creates stress helps me have a clearer head during the school day, making it easier to stay attentive during online learning. Taking breaks, drinking water, moving around during online learning are also huge lifesavers. Another important strategy is advocacy. Online learning works better for me when I remember to advocate for myself. With in-person or online classes, I've learned to never assume your teachers remember the disabilities and or accommodations of every student in the class. Sometimes a friendly reminder of the inconsistencies of my narcolepsy and migraines is necessary to keep me working smoothly with my teachers. Many of us have issues with anxiety or are shy about speaking up for ourselves, but we will all have to advocate for ourselves in college and in the workplace, so beginning to do so now is a great idea. My last and probably most important strategy is about taking care of ourselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Part of planning my day includes doing the things that are good for my physical and mental health, as well as things I love to do. This means scheduling time for virtual club meetings, collaborating with other students on projects, talking with friends online or on the phone, going outside each day, and spending time with my competitive esports team, along with pursuing other dreams and passions, whatever they may be. Yes, my routines have changed during shelter in place, and they will change again once a vaccine is developed. Still, I believe it is important to do something for ourselves every day that makes us feel happy. Yes, this pandemic is a major disruption to all aspects of our lives, but humanity has survived worse, and we will all endure. Every major event has unintended consequences, and this is no exception. The unintended consequences of being stuck at home and accessing courses through my computer screen forced me to reevaluate my goals, show up for class even when it feels impossible, create new routines, advocate for myself, and find ways to stay happy and healthy. In some ways, this experience is teaching me how to make my life easier, not only for now, but also for the near and far future. It's also pushing me to become more independent and more flexible and compassionate with not only myself, but others. I hope the same is true for you. Thank you. All right, there we go. Let's take some questions. Let's see. Do you drive? I do not drive yet, but I am being peer pressured by my father just to get started. I know a 17-year-old that does not drive. I don't know. Is that tragic, Caroline?
So I know that with the place that I live, with public transportation being very limited, not driving was a huge pain. So I can drive, and I got my license when I was 17. But for a long time, I couldn't get my license because my cataplexy was too severe. Unlike lots of people, my cataplexy was my worst symptom for a long time. So I had to wait to get my license until my neurologist and my parents and I all agreed that my cataplexy was under enough control that it wouldn't be unsafe. Yeah. So I feel like driving is a large freedom in my life, and I'm very grateful to have it. So I hope that you can get it soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand people being very hesitant to learn how to drive though, because if you don't feel confident that it will be safe, you shouldn't push yourself into driving because that would be dangerous. But I personally have been driving for over a year and have never gotten into an accident or almost crashed or anything like that. So it was the right decision for me.
Good. That's good news.
Yeah.
All right. What has been your biggest challenge with narcolepsy and how did you overcome it? My biggest challenge has been exhaustion and trying to get through school while exhausted. So I did all the things I just said. I set goals, I organized, and I achieved those goals. And my organizational skills helped me achieve those goals. And I've just had to work hard though. I've been working, and I know you do this too, Caroline, 5 to 6 hours after school every day, 7 days a week, just to get through school, because it doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you are on this narcolepsy spectrum, you have to work 2 times harder than the average student. And it's very difficult to get through school. I don't know, do you have any other cool tips or tricks, Caroline?
So I feel like I take a bunch of medications that help me manage my narcolepsy very well. So when I do remember to take all of my medications, managing to go through the school day is not as difficult as it used to be. So for me, it's definitely waking up, making sure I took my stimulant, making sure I take my second dose so that I can stay awake for 4th block. For me, it's definitely being organized and knowing how I feel, because I don't necessarily need to take 2 stimulants every day, but I can tell around lunchtime when I'm going to need a second boost. So I feel like for me, it's definitely organization, which is incredibly helpful.
And definitely securing accommodations, making sure you talk to your teacher. And, anyway, just talk to them during class, set up a luncheon, talk to your peers, educate, advocate, and make sure you can take pictures of the board, you can record, you can do anything, yeah.
For me, transparency is definitely the best policy. I realized during my senior year that I had a new teacher, and I realized I never actually talked to them about how I had narcolepsy, because I have a small school, so a lot of my teachers I had the previous year and already knew my health constraints. So they came up to me one day and they were like, "You seem really tired, like, is everything?" I was like, "I forgot to tell you I have narcolepsy." So you can't really expect to be helped out if you don't tell people you need help. So I definitely think that that's a good policy.
Nice.
Okay. Will there be a youth ambassador training this year? So this is a good question. This year we are hosting a youth and young adult virtual youth ambassador workshop October 10th. But register by October 1st to receive your free toolbox, and you can use this during the meeting. You can register at www.narcolepsynetwork.org.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Ooh, thank you. Have you had any experience with reading comprehension or writing? If so, any advice for students struggling with this? Okay, I have taken AP language I did not take lit. What is the other one, Caroline?
It's AP language and AP literature.
AP language and composition, that's it, yes. So reading comp, especially with the ACT too. Taking short breaks helps so much because I would read entire passages and just forget it all.
Yeah, definitely. The AP test was very different this year, so I didn't have to do a reading comprehension portion. I had to do an essay portion, but when I took my AP Lang test, I definitely would block out chunks of the passages to make sure it was more manageable, because sometimes I'll have completely random brain fog, but if I'm under stress, like the pressure of the AP exam, the ACT, the SAT, it is important for me to like chunk things out, so then it's much more manageable, so my brain fog is less and I don't get necessarily like tunnel vision, and I can focus much more on the greater picture, especially for something like comprehension of a passage. So I feel like for me, again, a lot of it is compartmentalization and organization to make sure that I can process everything, even if I am having a medically undesirable day. What about you?
A lot of it is mental, and there's huge psychological aspects to taking these tests, especially with all these issues. You almost have to allow yourself to fail in order to succeed.
Yeah, that's why you can take ACTs and SATs multiple times.
Yes.
I get cataplexy from stress, so sometimes my hand will shake when I'm writing. Taking an AP test when you have a cataplectic hand is very difficult and not the best to deal with. So I feel like a lot of it is just knowing what you need to prepare for going in, and you can get accommodations for an AP test or the SAT or ACT. So what's super important for that is starting early. I did not have accommodations for my standardized tests, and looking back, I do sometimes regret that I did start too late. So I feel like it's very important to be proactive and just think, do I need this before it's too late?
I was just too shy to speak up for myself. And it's only recently where I've been able to consistently go to school that I've been able to talk to my teachers and advocate for myself. Yeah.
So, hi, I'm a graduate student. So I went from morning/afternoon class to night classes. Any suggestions or tips? So I did all of my college registration courses a couple weeks ago because I'm going off to my freshman year of college in the fall. And I realized that I did not ask for priority registration or registration for specific times. So for me personally, my sharpest hours are in the morning and then the early afternoon. So I really did not want any classes that started in the afternoon or started even at night, because that's when my brain fog and my fatigue and everything just gets so much worse. So I don't know the accommodation process for graduate students because I'm an undergrad, but I think it's important to try to see if you can get extra wiggle room for your registrations to see if you can have them be at the best time of day. And if you don't particularly have a best time of day, I think it's important to just make sure like you're eating enough, because I know for me, like it's so much harder to focus and to stay awake when I'm really hungry or when I am dehydrated or something like that. So if you don't necessarily have like an optimal time for operating, just try to know your body really well and when would be the best for you to function.
Nice.
Any thoughts or?
Nights are not good for me, Caroline. Whenever I try to do homework, it takes hours and hours and hours. So mornings are always the best. Let's see.
I'm unusual in the fact that I wake up early pretty easily because of the medications I take. Early rising is not difficult for me. So during junior year, which was kind of hectic, I would sometimes wake up as early as like 5 in the morning and do an hour of homework, but I would go to bed an hour earlier than most people would. So I feel like you can hold an unconventional schedule and try to operate the best you can. Okay, so, Caroline, what medication do you take for cataplexy? So there are SSRIs, and that will help with cataplexy suppression. So the cataplexy suppressant I take is called Zoloft, which is conventionally used for anxiety and depression disorders, but I use it for my cataplexy. And before I was on any cataplexy suppressants, my cataplexy was insanely bad. I have bruises and scars all over my body from when I would just fall all the time. I had like those rubber things that you put on like the corners of tables. that you do to baby-proof a house, because I would just fall or collapse or buckle or weaken so often. And the cataplexy suppressant I take definitely helped eliminate all lingering cataplexy symptoms, but I also take Xyrem, which is definitely the most helpful medication I've ever taken, and it helped eat away at my cataplexy, but my cataplexy was so unusually severe that I needed 2 cataplexy suppressants. So hopefully no one else has to deal with that, but if you do, you can double up with cataplexy suppressants. Okay.
What do you wish people knew about narcolepsy? Well, me personally, everything, because whenever I talk to my friends, they don't know the truth.
Is that the thing where you fall asleep all the time?
Exactly. Yeah. So if I can just schedule more lunch and learns, it makes me a happy camper. You know,
Yes.
just being able to tell them that, you know, that is the best part of being a youth ambassador. Just being able to see people's faces when they're like, oh, expletive, you have narcolepsy. And this is exactly what it is. Yeah.
And it's serious, and it's not the joke you see in TV where the guy falls asleep in his bowl of soup. Like, this condition can have dramatic impacts on my life, and you're seeing me now that I'm qualified term, very successful, because I'm on medications, but like a lot of my friends didn't know me when my narcolepsy was at its absolute worst. So I feel like it's very important for people to understand that this isn't an easy punchline.
Yeah, it's not like other diseases. It's a life sentence. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a life sentence with new medications making the life sentence a little bit more pleasant every year, but it's still serious. Okay, do you carry a snack to help the carb funk come back out of the cloud, like a protein bar or peanuts, like that? So I always carry a bag of almonds in my backpack. So I don't even know if this is narcolepsy related, but I'm very sensitive to like not eating enough. So if I eat enough for lunch, or if I don't eat enough at dinner, or if I eat like a late dinner, like I can be super hangry, and that's not necessarily narcolepsy, but I definitely carry a granola bar or almonds personally, because I don't like peanuts as much. That's just me, because I think the protein is super helpful. So during 4th block, like my AP Lit teacher and I just had an agreement where she normally doesn't let people eat in class, and I don't have an official accommodation to eat in class, but like I'll pay attention better if you just let me eat my almonds in peace. So we came to an agreement, and I think that that's helpful for me personally.
Yeah. Keeping a healthy diet. Nice. Well, I don't know, Caroline. Do you find any foods to exacerbate your symptoms?
I feel like if I just eat anything really heavy, like normal people, like the classic food coma, but for me, it's just amplified. So like if I'll eat like a huge plate of nachos, like it's totally worth it because they're delicious, but I definitely feel comatose for the next few hours, and I often take a nap. So I feel like I won't eat the huge plate of nachos if I have a rowing race or if I have to do homework. Like I'm not going to eat the really heavy stuff if I know I have to be on my toes mentally or physically. So again, I feel like a lot of it is just knowing how your body personally reacts to your habits and how you can set yourself up for success.
Nice.
What has been your biggest challenge with narcolepsy, and how did you overcome it? I think we might have answered something similar to this, but I feel like for me, a large part of it was just accepting that there's no powering through. Like, I'm a very headstrong and determined person. So when I was first diagnosed, I was relieved because it wasn't that I couldn't power through enough. Like, I felt like I was failing at whatever. Like, I had to stop doing my original sport, which was figure skating. I was not doing as well in classes. Like, I pride myself on being a nerd, and I was like not doing as well as I used to. So I felt like I was failing at being who I am. And that's really sad. But when I was diagnosed, like, I was no longer having the expectation that I had to power through everything alone. Like, I took medications and I saw my amazing doctor, and it helped me get my life to the point where it is now, where I'm going off to college in a couple of weeks, and I'm just so excited for everything. So I feel like for me, it was accepting that it wasn't a failure in myself. It was just something I had to tackle, and I can do it, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. You have an amazing story.
You do too, dude.
Thanks. All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming.